everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Atkin. I'm your host, Olivia Atkin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. In these solo episodes, I pull back the curtain on podcasting, entrepreneurship, and personal success. You'll hear the strategies I use, the lessons I've learned, and the honest stories that shaped me. So you can build not just a successful podcast, but a business and life you're proud of. Today's episode is going to be slower, deeper, more reflective, because we're talking about alignment. And alignment is not just aesthetic. It's not just a buzzword. It's not something you put into a bio. Alignment is the moment when something is technically working, but you quietly know it doesn't fit. And I almost built something that didn't fit myself. And the uncomfortable part, it would have worked. Let me start here. Growth feels like progress. New clients feel like progress. New downloads feel like progress. New revenue milestones also feels like progress. New opportunities feel like progress. Feedback feels like affirmation. And affirmation feels like you're doing something right? But here's the first truth I want you to sit with today. Growth does not automatically mean the right direction. It means movement. And movement without reflection becomes drift. Drift doesn't look chaotic. It looks productive. You're busy. You're booked. You're building. But you're not asking, is this aligned with who I am becoming and who I want to be and how I want to show up? You're asking, how do I keep this going? That subtle shift is where misalignment actually begins. I'm going to take you back to a personal moment of mine. On June 24th, 2024, my boyfriend and I moved to Juneau, Alaska because of his military orders. I told everyone months and months in advance that I would be taking 30 days off. It's only 30 days. It'll be fine. You give someone 6+ months in advance notice, you think it's all going to be good. Back up to July 5th, I'm back, sitting at my desk in my new home in Juneau, Alaska, in my office working. I'm thinking, no problem. I took that 30 days off. I gave everyone ample notice. Everyone knew. Everyone was understanding. The business had been growing month after month since its launch, and the podcast launched November 1st, 2022. It had become completely referral based almost instantaneously to the business starting. Income was continuously increasing. Client list was expanding every single month. And I was super confident. But space from your business reveals math. And when I finally slowed down enough to look at that math, I saw something clearly for the first time I hadn't seen since I started my business and was knee deep in my business. I had been working with over 60+ clients at one time. Most of those clients, I'd say 58 of them, were project based. And it wasn't until like a month or two before we left Florida that I had started work that wasn't just project based. So that gives you a picture of how often I was doing project based with those 60+ clients at one time, continuously, month after month, which meant they paid once and we worked together, whether it was 2 weeks or 4 months. There wasn't any reoccurring stability in that either. There was volume, but there wasn't stability. I was working 10 to 12-hour days. And as many of you know in my story and the background of professions I had come from, working 10 to 12-hour days, 5-7 days a week in pro sports or in the corporate world, like so many individuals are in, is nothing. It's the norm. I mean, 16-hour days in professional sports was the norm, so I didn't think anything of it. It didn't feel chaotic to me. It felt impressive. I wore it like a badge of honor. I'm working with 60 plus clients at one time and I can completely handle it. I was working 10 to 12 hours a day and I could handle it. I was everywhere. I was showing up. I was showing up for life events as well, right? Not just in work. And that was the dangerous part. And I didn't realize that was the dangerous part until July 5th and that time frame. Unstable doesn't always feel overwhelming. Sometimes it feels successful, like it did for me. But here's what I realized when I started my work and up again on July 5th of 2024. I wasn't building a business that fit the life I wanted 5 years from now. I was building momentum. Momentum, again, feels very powerful and it could suck you in. But momentum without structure collapses, and momentum without alignment drains you. So here's a question for you. If your current workload doubled tomorrow, would it strengthen your life or would it strain it? Because growth that strains your future is misaligned growth. Once I saw the stability issue, I reacted. And high achievers react fast. People told me, you could easily make $1 million. You're underpricing yourself. You should go high ticket. You don't need that many clients because of your value. And let me tell you, when we hear those things, when any of us hear those things, we get empowered. We're like, yes, that's right. I could be making $1 million. I am underpricing myself. I mean, I heard the underpricing thing for a good year and a half. You should go high ticket. You don't need that many clients when you do those things. And logically, they were not wrong. However, fewer clients, higher price, less volume, more revenue, it solved the math problem immediately. So, as anyone would do, I leaned into it. $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 offers. It looked elevated, it looked mature, but in the room, it felt heavy, and it felt heavy to me. Not because I didn't believe in my expertise. Trust me, I believe in my expertise, and I know the knowledge and expertise I have, but because I didn't believe podcasting as a vehicle for impact needed to cost that much for someone to use their voice meaningfully and make the impact they wanted to make. That was my value. And when your pricing forces you to compromise your value lens, that's erosion. Burnout does not begin with exhaustion, it begins with erosion. And when erosion starts to happen, small compromises, subtle shifts, internal resistance you ignore because the numbers look good. And here's the part most people won't admit. The $1 million version would have worked, but it wouldn't have been mine. And that difference matters way more than revenue. I wouldn't have been me. I wouldn't have been showing up the way I wanted to show up. When we realize misalignment, we don't always recalibrate calmly. We tend to overcorrect ourselves. Instead of asking, what life do I want? We typically ask, how do I fix this fast? Fast is rarely aligned. So I slowed down and I asked harder questions. What kind of lifestyle do I want? With military relocations, with flexibility, with direct client relationships? Those are things I wanted. Do I want to build an empire structure or a sustainable business, a sustainable personal brand? And I realized something deeply, deeply, deeply important. Not every business needs to become an empire. Not every consultant needs to build a team of 15 people. Not every coach needs $1 million and wear it as a badge. My highest offer now, $5,000. I make high six figures, and I'm proud of how I serve. When someone signs with my business, they sign with me. That is alignment. Alignment doesn't always maximize the ego metrics that are out there. It maximizes integrity. Now, let's talk about podcasting, because the exact same pattern happens in shows every single day. You launch a podcast because you believe in something. But once downloads start moving, you start watching the numbers. And when I launched my podcast, as my producer Ben knows, I watched those numbers every single day. It became like a drug of mine. And I would check them every single day, quite a few times actually a day. And I would get so amped. I would text my amazing producer, Ben. I would text my family. And you start to go, how do I grow faster? How do I get bigger guests? How do I go viral? Downloads become the $1 million narrative we see in our businesses. You adjust titles for algorithm. You book guests based on reach. You pivot themes because they perform, and it works. But here's the question. Are you building visibility or coherence? Visibility multiplies impressions. Coherence multiplies meaning. You can be visible and fragmented. You can be booked and diluted. If someone listened to your podcast, to your last 10 episodes of your podcast, could they clearly articulate what they stand for? And I want to also say that for people who are looking to be a guest on podcasts, if someone listened to your last 10 episodes you were a guest on podcasts for, could they clearly articulate what you stand for? If not, you don't have a growth problem. You have a coherence problem. And coherence problems are solved with clarity, not acceleration. My 40K offer was the business version of Misalignment. The podcast version, the big name guests. It looks incredible, it boosts numbers, it elevates perception. But ask yourself, did you book them because they fit your philosophy or because they elevate your image? A podcast without a filter becomes a collection of conversations. A podcast with alignment becomes a body of work, and you get to be proud of that. And then monetization comes in. Sponsors, ad reads, affiliates, people funneling into your business and signing as clients, people paying to be guests on your podcast. If the sponsors doubled tomorrow, would you still feel proud reading the ad? If the client numbers doubled tomorrow because of your podcast or the people paying to be a guest on your podcast, would you still feel proud having them on? If affiliate revenue tripled, would you still believe in the product? Money magnifies alignment. Acceleration reveals integrity. If something feels slightly off, here's how you realign without burning it down to the ground. Audit your last 10 episodes. Again, if you're a guest, audit the last 10 episodes you've been a guest on. And if it's been less than that, if you've less than 10 episodes out, or you've been a guest on less than 10 podcasts, take what you have now and audit those, not for downloads, but for depth. Identify your core conversation, not your topic, your thesis. Create a filter. Does this deepen my philosophy? Would I stand behind this 3 years from now? Does this align with my lifestyle? Protect your energy. Track which conversations leave you energized. Cut one thing, one category, one format, one obligation. Pruning strengthens roots. If you are a host, your responsibility is narrative cohesion. Every episode teaches your audience what this space stands for. If you don't define that intentionally, your audience will define it for you. If you are a guest, exposure can become addictive, but exposure without coherence creates dilution. If you cannot articulate your core message in one sentence, you will adjust yourself in every single room you enter. And adjustments erode identity. Reputation builds authority. Reinvention resets it. This is especially true for high-performing women. You are told to scale faster, charge more, expand aggressively, be louder. But leadership without identity becomes performance, and performance is exhausting. Identity erosion looks like constant pivots, overconsumption of advice, softening opinions, becoming less clear of who you are, what you stand for, how you want to show up for your clients, how you want to show up for your podcast listeners over time. Alignment requires you to have courage, to stand for what you believe in, stand tall, stand still, even when everyone is telling you what to do. Because once you see misalignment, you must choose differently. Even if it grows slower, even if it looks smaller, even if it feels quieter, quieter can be stronger. Zoom out 5 years. If your podcast became known for one thing, what would it be? Would it be integrity? Would it be depth? Would it be strategy? Would it be impact? Would it be leadership? Would it be multiple of those? Now ask yourself, are your current decisions reinforcing that? And I want people who are guests on podcasts to do the same thing. So I'm going to mention it like this. If you're a guest on podcasts and you could become known for one thing through your guest appearances, would it be integrity? Would it be depth? Would it be the strategy you have and provide to others? Would it be the impact? Would it be leadership? Would it be all of those? And then ask yourself, are the current decisions reinforcing that? Legacy is built through repetition. Authority compounds quietly. Acceleration magnifies whatever foundation exists. Make sure the foundation is yours and make sure you can stand tall in that foundation, not just today, not just tomorrow, not just in a year from now, but in 5 years and 10 years from now. Here's what achieving success stands for: ambition anchored in identity, growth rooted in integrity, podcasting as impact, sustainability over ego milestones, coherence over noise, alignment before acceleration. Every single time. And I mean every single time. If you keep building exactly as you are right now for the next 3 years, what would you respect? Would you respect the outcome? Or are you hoping acceleration fixes the discomfort you're in? Acceleration magnifies misalignment. Alignment stabilizes growth. Choose alignment first. If you're ready to evolve, to grow your podcast, your business, or yourself in a way that feels aligned and sustainable, I'd love to help you. You'll find a link in the show notes to connect with me, and together we'll map out your next steps. Not the version you think you should be building, but the one you're truly meant to build. And remember, success isn't about staying the same. It's about being brave enough to keep becoming who you're meant to be. I'm Olivia Akin, and this is Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. Until next time, keep building, keep growing, and keep redefining what success looks like to you.